Great, thank you, Riley, and welcome everyone to today's webinar. We're going to be talking about new outdoor Wi-Fi 6 solutions that were announced 2 days ago on the 14th with a public announcement. And we're running through a bit more about those solutions and of particular interest, some testing that we did in the field. So you can see some of the results that we were able to achieve relative to some other solutions that are out there in the market today. We'll be talking a little bit about some customer deployments and use cases as well. And as Riley mentioned, please enter any questions into the questions tab, and we'll monitor those and get to those during the course of the presentation. So without further ado, let's jump into this. Just to kind of start off, I like to show this infographic picture. I think it's a good one from the Wi-Fi Alliance. Shows kind of where things are at within the Wi-Fi world today in 2021. Some of the numbers. A few takeaways here is, we're shipping about 4 billion devices per year. Over half of those are Wi-Fi 6, no surprise. And at the bottom there, you see that Wi-Fi 6E, which is the new 6 gigahertz standard, is starting to come on strong. And we're seeing shipments of those products starting this year. And you'll see more come from Cambium in that area as well. So 6E is a whole new tripling of the spectrum, overall for Wi-Fi. So a significant milestone in terms of the enhancement of Wi-Fi and its ability to expand its capacity overall. Another interesting stat here I like to point out is the mobile traffic offloaded to Wi-Fi, 63%. And that number has gone up and down over the years, depending on the build out of the 4G networks, 3G, 4G networks, et cetera, moving to 5G, and the amount of traffic that is on these networks. But still well over half, nearly 2/3 of mobile traffic gets offloaded to Wi-Fi. So these numbers remain strong. And despite news of its demise many times over, Wi-Fi only continues to become stronger and build up a base of installed base and devices out there moving forward. So into this market is what we're talking about, introducing a new set of outdoor solutions from Cambium focused on Wi-Fi 6. And the kind of summary here on this solution, we're saying shattering conventional wisdom for Wi-Fi coverage and economics. There's two main points to get across here. If you take anything away from this discussion today, is we have designed a product that has some very interesting capabilities that deliver long range and great performance, and we're doing that at a very economical price point. And I have a couple examples of that where we'll kind of talk through that a little bit more. But I would just say right off the bat, those are the two main things to take away: the unique design and capabilities that deliver outstanding performance, and the economics element of that when you talk about what the total cost is going to be of deploying that solution. So what we've done here, and we'll talk about more about this in detail, is the antenna design is a key aspect of this solution. You can actually see the product doesn't look like a normal AP. The top 2/3 there above that line is where the antenna sits. And we have different versions of the product where that top section will be swapped out and you'll have different coverage patterns deployed. But that separation of the electronics, the AP, which is at the bottom, and the antenna, and some unique things that we're doing there, really allows us to establish a new baseline for performance in terms of gain and coverage consistency and things like that. So it's an outdoor product, PoE out, so it can power an adjacent device. And when you put this in the context of Cambium's broader set of solutions, if you're backhauling the connection to the AP over a 60 gigahertz line, for example, or another one of Cambium's fixed wireless solutions, you can power perhaps that subscriber module sitting next to it, or a video surveillance camera, for example, or even another AP. The capacity of the solution is over a gigabit of true throughput, and we actually have a 2.5 gigabit uplink on it, so it's backward compatible with 1 gig, but we actually have more than a gigabit of horsepower through this device. And then all of the Cambium and Zurus software capabilities, including application control and all the different management options and easy pass access and things of this nature, are part of this solution. If you're familiar with Zurus, it was an acquisition a little over 2 years ago by Cambium. And all of these XV series Wi-Fi 6 products that you see Cambium have represent a convergence of those technologies. So packed with features and capabilities, and then we'll talk about the price points and some of those things as we work through this as well. So there's kind of an intro overall to the solution. We talk about the antenna piece, and this dives a bit more into the the nitty-gritty details. But antenna patterns are something that you typically see in a data sheet for an outdoor access point or an indoor access point. And focus on the red azimuth patterns that you see here for both the 5 gig and the 2.4 gig. Very consistent coverage around a circular 360-degree pattern. And that's something that we were able to achieve with the design in a purposeful way so that you minimize nulls. You don't have any major points where you don't get good coverage in a full range. And this is for the omnidirectional version of the product. And that allows you to deploy with confidence in different locations and ensure that you have broad spectrum coverage. So that was a big focus of the design, was to not only get good range, but improve that overall consistency across both spectrums. The blue is kind of a side profile of the AP, and you can see where we're obviously shooting more signal out from the face of the AP than up or down, logically. So that's the kind of the side view. But the top view kind of shows that coverage pattern, and that's really a big focus of what we did on the design. So if I kind of summarize some of the design parameters here, high efficiency antenna, so better gain gets you longer range, not a surprise. The gain also improves the uplink, the budget, the link budget. So if you're familiar with budget designs, in communications, you want to get a greater amount of gain to work with, and that'll ultimately provide a better signal, a better consistency, and a better performance to the user that is connecting to it. And then we talked about minimizing the nulls and keeping the consistent coverage. And then ultimately this translates to, as I just mentioned, better connections, overall cell capacity as well. If you have greater, signal to noise ratio and greater signal at any given point, you can ultimately get more capacity out of that. And with this thing pulling a gigabit plus of throughput, true throughput, this allows you to gain that additional capacity in your design, as well as the consistent coverage. And then remember, this is Wi-Fi 6. So Wi-Fi 6 has been around for some time, but relative to the previous generations of Wi-Fi technology, it's only faster, more efficient, lower latency, all of these kinds of things that are part of and come with the Wi-Fi 6 technologies, which you're probably already used to or have seen in existing solutions that are out there already. So this is some of the summary of where we're talking about this product providing benefits based on its design and the technology under the hood. And here's some more details into how that's done. We did some unique things here, and I actually won't go too much into this, but some things that we did to improve the performance. I mentioned the number one item, and that's probably one of the most important, is that we physically separated those electronics into a different section, and that means we didn't have to compromise the design to do and deliver the results that we saw. And then there's other things as well that ultimately contributed to the capability of the product. Just a couple of things about power. I want to mention our line of switches. This product, as I discussed earlier, has PoE out. So you can not only power the access point, but if you deliver enough PoE power, you can use the PoE out to power an adjacent device. Could be another AP, or I mentioned like a video surveillance camera or otherwise. And so you can do that with CN matrix switches. Some products there have 60 watts power out so that they can power the AP in another device. And then we have a couple different injectors. We certainly would recommend the high power ones. It's very small delta in terms of cost relative to the bottom one, and that gives you the option to use that extra port. And here's then just a summary of Cambium's outdoor set of solutions. And this actually isn't even a complete picture. I'm missing some of the Xeris products in here. But Cambium has a very strong portfolio of outdoor Wi-Fi, and obviously all of our other outdoor backhaul and distribution fixed wireless products as well. So just keep that in mind in terms of where we are as far as supporting an outdoor solution end to end, delivering the access at the edge of the network with the XV2 or these other solutions to provide Wi-Fi connectivity to customers, but then also backhauling that traffic with multi-gigabit fixed wireless so that you can go end to end and save significant dollars over deploying fiber or otherwise wired backhaul solutions. So imagine applications in a remote, area of your campus or a sports field, or if you're talking about deploying across a city environment, you can do that very efficiently and effectively with these price points, but also with that wireless distribution layer that allows you to set up and get these connections going very quickly, as opposed to trenching alternatives. So a lot of products here, if you're not familiar with the Cambium set of solutions related to our outdoor. And I want to mention the management side of things. So there's a lot of different options here when you're talking about building up a Cambium network. CN Maestro is the single console that runs across the majority of Cambium solutions, including this new outdoor AP, the Wi-Fi product line of CN Pilot, as well as all the Wi-Fi 6 solutions, and then all the fixed wireless solutions. And there's a couple versions of that. XMS is the Zurus management system, which supports this, as well as the CN Matrix switches. And then there's a Swift mobile app, which you can very simply and easily set up and configure a network, a smaller network most likely, on your mobile phone. So a lot of different solutions depending on the price point and the features and capabilities that you're looking for, and we can work with you to select the right one for you. If you're an existing customer, then obviously those solutions, if you're using one of them, this product will operate there. One thing it's not supported on is XMS Enterprise, which is the on-prem product from Cambium, from Zurus, and we can work with you in terms of a conversion. We have a promotion available to move you to XMS Cloud as an option. And then design tools. This is an important part of deploying outdoor Wi-Fi or indoor Wi-Fi, is the ability to design the network. And we work with a number of third parties, as well as we have our own design tools. So if you do go onto the web, you can actually, for free, take a look at this thing and see its coverage patterns with Wi-Fi Designer. So that's at that link there. It's on the Cambium website. And there's an example on the right side of a design there where you can just see some brick walls that were drawn on a map to kind of show the coverage impact. But you can design facilities there with Wi-Fi Designer. And then if you want more full-featured capabilities, Ekahau, Ivy Wave, and Air Magnet are three that we work with. This product is already supported in Ekahau and Ivy Wave. So if you're into the design aspect of things, just wanted to keep in mind that there are several options available there. All right, so kind of to summarize just what we talked about so far, why Cambium's Outdoor Wi-Fi 6, we're introducing a new product, what's the so what about it? We have that antenna design that we built in a lot of innovation too, and the results are very, very good. That's the next section we'll get into in terms of what it's done. The product design, it's all in one. There is no separate controller or antennas, and so it makes it very easy to install. I mean, it's wall or pole mounted. You can put it, most different places very quickly and easily. And then obviously, if you have wireless backhaul, that entire installation process can be even more seamless if you're trying to get Wi-Fi out to remote locations. And the PoE out is a very nice feature, when you're looking at remote locations that you're deploying into. It's got the full feature set that's carried over from the Wi-Fi 6 and the Zurus product lines. And then the bottom line benefits are, the client experience, the superior coverage, and ultimately less equipment. When you have better coverage, you have less equipment to deploy, and that hits your bottom line. And I have an example of that TCO coming up in a second. All right, I wanted to run a quick poll here. So if you want to look at your console here, there will be some questions here popping up in a second. And let's see. Okay, so I believe that should be live. Hopefully it is here. Riley, can you confirm that you can see it there? So if you wanted to just quickly enter in these options, basically, if you are looking at selection criteria for an outdoor Wi-Fi solution, which ones are the most important to you? And I provided 5 different options there. So capacity, coverage, the hardened capabilities, part of it, a broader solution, and then the cost aspect. What parameters, are most interesting with respect to all of those different components? So if you want to take a quick stab at an answer there, we'll leave the poll open for a little bit more, and then we'll see what the results come in as. So we kind of covered most of these, I guess, as part of the intro there, and then you can kind of see what is most interesting to you. So let's go ahead and share the results there. So we found that coverage and capacity actually were number 1 and 2 there. So not surprising, but that's actually good to see, because this correlates to what we're able to deliver with this product very well. Cost obviously is important as well to many folks. And then the hardened and the solution part are tied for the last place there. So interesting results. I would say not surprising overall, but I kind of expected a little bit of a even more even spread, I guess, between some of these components. But I think we can speak directly to what you're saying there in terms of coverage. Certainly, in this next section here, we'll talk about some of the results that we have. So what we did with this product is took it out into the field and did some testing of the range and the performance of the solution. And it's actually harder than you might think to get a good test location for this, because some of the distances get very long. And so we found a long stretch of straight highway in some of the farm fields around our office in Southern California. And we put together a video that describes the testing and exactly what we did there. So I'm going to play that video now. It's less than 3 minutes, but it gives you an idea of what we did with respect to testing the product in the field relative to 2 competitors that we were working against. So turn up your audio, and then let's check out this video.
We're out here today in the fields in Camarillo, California, where we've been testing our Wi-Fi 6 outdoor access point from 0 meters all the way out to 1 kilometer.
We will be testing Cambium Network's new XV2-2T access point against the Meraki MR76 and the Ruckus T350C access points.
All right, now let's begin our test. At 350 meters is where we see the first of the competitors' APs drop off. At 400 meters is where we see the second competitor's AP drop off. Between 400 meters and 1 kilometer is where you clearly see the Cambium AP smokes the competitors. And these are just some of the reasons why you see the Cambium access point has such incredible range and performance.
We saw some truly outstanding test results here today. This chart shows an example of how range translates to coverage. With a range of twice as much, you actually get 4 times the coverage. So you can see, comparing the chart on the left to the right, you need 1/4 the number of access points on the right to cover the same area. In addition to less equipment, Cambium's price point is also significantly lower than the competitive solutions. And that's what this chart shows, where you see a total cost of ownership over 5 years of nearly half of the other solutions. So great range is nice to talk about, but what does this really translate to? Less equipment, less cabling, less installation time, lower maintenance costs and management costs over time, and that dramatically reduces the total cost of ownership of the solution over the lifetime of the product. This is yet another example of the outstanding RF innovations from Cambium Networks.
Bruce, sorry to interrupt you, but I think you're still on mute.
Oh, sorry. There we go. All right. All right. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, left the mute button on there. So the video tells the story better than going through the slides here, but they are in the handouts so that you can leverage these and get an idea of what some of the results were specifically. But just to summarize real quickly, we tested against these three APs. There's an example of one of them on a tripod there. 1 kilometer, we were able to achieve that in this specific scenario. This is not obviously what you're normally going to be designing to, but it was kind of a maximum, what you can get from a maximum perspective on this solution. And you can't see the access point or the tripod, in this picture at a kilometer away. It takes about 12, 13 minutes to walk that distance. So the distances were huge that we were able to achieve. So we were quite pleased with that. It was a Samsung Galaxy. We were able to get close to a gig right next to the access point. And then at about 450 meters, we were still at 127 meg. That's the point where the other two solutions had disconnected already. And then we were out to a kilometer, and we were getting about 40 meg at that point. So those are some of the results we achieved. And then this diagram, which was in the video, just kind of shows some of the numbers. And I think what the important takeaways here is that obviously the range, the antenna was able to receive and connect to the signal from that smartphone going out very far distances. Antennas work two different ways. Both transmit. If you have high gain on the transmit side, that's one thing, but also the receive side, so you can hear back and hear better when you have a weaker signal, because smartphones don't necessarily pump out a ton of power relative to, say, a laptop or something else. We did test the laptop, and you saw here that in most locations the throughput was higher than the competitor APs, and we're able to achieve a connection out further as well. The competitor APs hung on a little bit longer in this case, but in both situations, you saw the extended performance from the Cambium AP. And so just to document a couple of the parameters related to the test, important to understand how the tests were done, but we basically connected an access point to a switch, and then there was a test app server where you could run the throughput from. We actually tested the access points in a lot of different orientations to make sure that we get the best results. So what you were actually seeing was the optimal configuration of the access points, all three of them, to get those results. And then you can see some of the RF configuration parameters there. It was set with US country settings, so power output is different in different regions around the world. So of course your mileage may vary depending on where you live, but the general parameters and the general benefits of the antenna are going to be there regardless. So this was the chart that I popped up there on the video related to range, but it is a squared mathematical equation. So if you have twice the range here, you get 4 times the coverage. So that's kind of the point. Twice the range. We saw about 2.5 times the range in the testing. Your mileage may vary again. Maybe it's 1.5, maybe it's 25%. But the square is ultimately what you get in terms of coverage benefit, and that's the main point there. Here's an example of some of the specs of this solution relative to some other competitors that are out there, so you can kind of see how things line up in terms of pricing, in terms of specs and features. So I think you're talking about a solution that not only delivers a very competitive price point, but a very solid set of specs to deliver the kind of outdoor coverage that you need in these kinds of networks. And then kind of the bottom line to kind of summarize everything back together then is a TCO example here. So I took a very, very conservative approach here and say that the coverage benefits of the solution allows you to save 30% on equipment. I mean, at 4x the coverage, that's actually 75% savings, but I'm just taking a super conservative view here. and say, depending on how you're deploying, and obviously with buildings and different things like that, you're not going to achieve open air benefits completely. But at 30%, you start off there. The price point of the solution, this is actually the same chart that was in the video, approximately half the price on average relative to these other solutions. But those combined together, you kind of get a compound effect when then you look at the total cost of ownership, because you're deploying less equipment and the solution itself is very competitively priced. These are at MSRP. So just an example. Again, your mileage may vary. We do have an online TCO tool that allows you to actually do some of these calculations and do comparisons as well. So if you're interested in that, we can provide a TCO analysis to compare the overall solution costs. Okay, next section here. We want to give you some real-world examples of deployments and scenarios that this product has been deployed into or makes sense for. And I think starting off in terms of deploying in across the campus, or this could extend to public Wi-Fi and other types of use cases. If you look at the end-to-end solution set from Cambium, you got the wireless access, you have the switching, which is optimized to support that wireless, and then you have the multi-gigabit backhaul solutions from Cambium, in particular our 60 gigahertz cnWave solution. And combining these all together provides a very powerful proposition to deliver good performance, but do it all at a very effective cost point. We talk about TCO, the TCO of a 60 gig backhaul as opposed to a fiber trench, that can be a 70% savings right there. So the combined effect of this solution, we believe, is very powerful and compelling, depending on what you're trying to do. And then ultimately, these things all managed then as well through a central management system that has quite a few capabilities in terms of analytics and access services, APIs, and extensibility as well. So this is kind of the building blocks of what we're talking about. If we look at a multi-gigabit campus network, here's just kind of a example of what you might be able to do. The V5000, V3000, those are the cnWave 60 gigahertz products that allow you to do multi-gigabits of backhaul over wireless using 802.11ay, which is a Wi-Fi technology in the 60 gigahertz zone. So the amount of throughput you can get is tremendous in that kind of context. And you can see distances up to 450 meters with very high capacity. So if you're distributing that signal around campus or two different buildings, cnWave can be used for that. And then at the end of that, the Wi-Fi 6 can hang off there. And again, the PoE out, you can support the node with power and provide you the Wi-Fi access locally. So these two products together make a very powerful combination for delivering wireless coverage around campus and doing that very quickly. These are very simple to set up and align and get working, and you're really providing power and the data connection to each point, but you're not actually having to run fiber or copper between those locations. If we talk about the educational space in education, obviously there's a lot of different use cases across a campus. You have the classroom and office spaces, you have libraries and maybe larger auditoriums where you have people taking classes with hundreds of people in one place. You might have stadiums or basketball arenas and other outdoor spaces. So putting the entire solution there, you can see different options and the products that would meet those different use cases, all centrally managed, provides an overall solution that can really support a campus environment very effectively, and obviously the other wireless options as well that can come into play for the backhaul. And one thing that we have seen, as a potential use case in education is a lot of remote scenarios, especially with school from home and remote learning kinds of scenarios where campuses have the capability to extend their network out to these locations. So fixed wireless can be an option. Schools are placed, across a community, distributed across the community, and if you use them as a base line for providing the fixed wireless access, perhaps from the roof of the school, then that can reach remote locations, whether it's on campus or in other locations around the community, so that you can reach homes or other locations with the backhaul and then locally provide the Wi-Fi access. So again, combining these two solutions together can really solve some of the challenges that we have to deliver wireless connectivity to rural areas or to locations where people are otherwise unable to get internet access. Hospitality, another key market for Cambium, but there's plenty of use cases around a hospitality campus, so to speak. You have obviously the hotel rooms, and you have the common areas. A lot of hotels have meeting rooms and high density spaces, and then you have outdoor areas, pools and parking lots, and resorts will be spread out over a large area. So different solutions that can support these scenarios. And then one thing not mentioned here is we integrate with a number of ecosystem partners that provide value-add services on top of this for engagement or other analytics around the hospitality kinds of scenarios as well. So there's quite a few solutions that Cambium can put together and craft for different kinds of scenarios in hospitality. Okay, I'm going to open up another poll here real quick. So this is number 2, and the questions in this case are based on the use cases that are of interest to you. So if you could take a look at the poll here on the screen, what types of scenarios or use cases would you look to operate hardened Wi-Fi or some of the outdoor solutions like we've talked about today? So whether that's across a campus area, and a campus could be like a school campus or a business campus or a location with multiple buildings, and oftentimes people want to roam around, and more we're getting people looking at saying, hey, I used to only provide Wi-Fi in certain areas, indoor or ubiquitous indoor. I want to add those outdoor spaces now as well to support students or employees that are roaming around the campus. Obviously, there's outdoor sporting events. There's city. We have plenty of state and local government customers at Cambium that are deploying these solutions around city locations as well. There's many different types of scenarios, and the last one actually is interesting as well, is harsh indoor environments. I mean, this could be manufacturing facilities. This could be cold rooms or chillers, indoor refrigeration rooms for food storage, places like that. So obviously the outdoor products have applications indoors in some of those scenarios as well. All right, so we'll share the results here on the poll. And we didn't have any people in transportation here, but you see kind of actually almost equal weighting on the first 3 there. So that's interesting that sports events facilities had as high of an outcome there in quite a few public city locations as well. So interesting kind of spread there in terms of folks here that are on the line right now. All right, so let's get into the last section at this point. Rad, I just want to break out real quick. Is there any questions or things you want to bring up at this point from what's coming over the line that we want to maybe talk to at this point in the presentation?
Yeah, there are a couple of questions. Maybe I'll throw one and we can take another one towards the end. But there's a question about, hey, the range that you're showing here of pretty impressive. Any commentary on how Cambium is able to achieve that level of range with this product?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think we'd point there to some of the things we talked about earlier on the antenna design. So there's quite a few things that were unique to the design of the product itself. So take a look at some of the earlier slides in the presentation. You might have missed that portion, whoever asked the question, but we have physical separation of the electronics from the antenna. The antenna itself is actually quite large in scope, and if you look at antenna design, the larger you can create the antenna, the more gain and performance you get out of it. It's always a trade-off with a lot of access points that you cram everything to a small box. So that's fine, you get a small profile, but you typically compromise on the performance. And because we're in outdoor locations, a lot of times you have a little bit more flexibility on that. We went ahead and put kind of a no compromised antenna design on this solution with the size and the aperture on the antenna, and then some other things that we listed in the presentation there in terms of material selection for the dielectrics, for example, and some other elements to create that larger gain and higher efficiency. And again, that works in both directions, receive and transmit. So there was a lot of purposeful design goals in mind when we created the antenna, and that's ultimately the result of it is kind of what you're seeing there with the results. So, all right, anything else there? We'll go to the end then with some of the questions.
Yeah, we can come back to that. Please keep going.
Okay.
There's one more question just came up, so we'll talk about that in the end. Okay.
Sounds good. So this is the last section here. I'm just work through a couple example customers and use cases for the solution. So we had a beta cycle that started a number of months ago and had one of our managed service provider customers do a test of the solution at a track for the Olympic trials. So in early July, I believe was the timing, there was one of those track locations, not the main one in Eugene, but a remote one where they ran some trials. And so in this case, they needed some coverage there. So the provider used some of Cambium's fixed wireless solutions with CBRS backhaul to deliver internet connectivity to the location, and then put a couple of these outdoor products out there. You can actually see it in the upper right-hand picture there. It's the right up to the far right. That's actually the unit right there facing out and covering the track. And a single unit was able to cover the entire track with really good coverage, full bars. And at one point, they actually had 157 devices on one AP because there was no cell coverage locally, or there were some failures. So there was some very good results from that. And in fact, the quote from the customer is here. So this is Jeff Turner from Elevate, who was the MSP, and he was very impressed with the antenna and what the results that he was able to get in terms of streaming media from there. Here's another comment from another one of our partners who was very pleased with the performance and saw it as a go through anything AP. And then we had a partner down in Central America, Latin America, who did some test coverage. You can see the Google map here. They were getting about 45 meg across about a half a kilometer distance. And again, it's actually kind of difficult sometimes to get locations that can be big enough. In this case, it looks like he shot across a soccer field. But the distances here were impressive, and we got that type of feedback consistently across the customers that were testing the solution. And here's one example of a deployment. One of our first customers, a city in Korea, that chose the solution, both the indoor and the outdoor XV2 for like a smart city type of deployment across this tourist city. So just an example of the kind of deployment here. You know, we've talked about education and hospitality, public Wi-Fi. You know, those are some of the great examples that we have in terms of the types of solution, or the types of scenarios that this kind of solution fits very well in. And based on the results of the poll there, it's clear that a number of you have perhaps applications for this kind of thing as well. Okay, so just a quick wrap up, a couple takeaways here. Just to kind of summarize the solution overall. Again, the two things that we really see stand out here is a product that was purposely designed with innovative antenna capabilities to deliver that superior range and performance. And then number two is that results in a compelling TCO, because if you can leverage that performance advantage, you can deploy less equipment overall. And that ultimately combines with the price point to deliver a very, very solid TCO over the lifespan of the product. You know, look at the product over a 5-year span and what it's able to do. So you can learn a lot more about the solution on the website. The product page there has some other videos, an unboxing video, and some app notes and other things. So check out that. And then there is this presentation as well as a data sheet and a app note in the handout. So if you want to take a look at those before you leave, you can download a few things to take away from the presentation today. All right, back over to you, Rayad. Some other
Hey, Bruce, one more question related to the range answer that you provided, coming from Martin. Isn't range highly dependent on the client and not on the AP? To some extent, it's true, because your APS more powerful radio, and especially if it's mobile clients connecting outdoors, maybe a weaker client. So how are you addressing, how are you getting the range in that context?
Right, and I think that this chart here actually is a good example of what happened there. Because of that antenna, again, on the receive side, you have larger aperture. We have a large size antenna there that's able to listen and receive more efficiently and effectively. So while at the shorter ranges, the different access points, had somewhat similar results in terms of throughput, the fact that the Cambium AP was able to hang on to that signal, way longer is, I think, very much indicative of the fact that the connection was able to be sustained in both directions at that point, right? So while the throughput, was a little bit better at the 350 and 400 meter ranges, the connection was actually not even there on the competitive APs past that point. So they couldn't even connect. So the baseline protocols of Wi-Fi could not do what they're supposed to do to create a connection. But with the antenna able to listen better, even to a lower level signal from a smartphone, it was able to hang on to that connection for very, very long. In fact, we stopped testing at 1 kilometer. We probably could have gotten a connection even further out. We didn't even try at this point because we kind of hit that magic 1 kilometer mark. But that was the baseline. We do have a 120-degree version of this product coming out as well that will actually sectorize the coverage into more of a cone shape. And that takes that same power, instead of distributing it in 360 degrees, we'll focus it in 120-degree fashion. And it'll be very interesting to go out in the field and test that one as well. That one is coming shortly, but we would expect that obviously it would even be able to do better in that respect. So I think there's a lot of physics involved in terms of how this is able to be achieved from that perspective.
I think at least the one person had an issue with listening to the audio when you play the video. So maybe if it's handy, you can stick the link on the chat, or we can otherwise send it out for them to view on their own.
Or go to, actually, if you go to that web page there on the Cambium website, just go to products, access points, and then click on the product XV2-2T, and the video is there. Or you can go to YouTube and just search Cambium Networks, and I believe it's the first video that pops up. Apologize if the audio didn't come through there, but the video is posted publicly in those places if you want to get a hold of it. So, all right. Any other questions?
I think that's, hang on, that is probably, I didn't scroll far enough down. Yeah, I think you addressed that question around, there's another question on the same topic about how does a client get back to XV2T at longer distances?
Okay. And here was one about an outdoor product with an SFP port. So yeah, I mean, I've heard that one pop up before. There isn't current plans for that, but I presume that's basically looking for OFC termination. Okay. So something that would have a fiber interface is a request from someone there. We'll have to look further into something like that. Okay. I think that wraps up the question. So
there was one more question about, is the range only applicable, maximized for AX clients? And I think in the Olympic trial, what we saw was a mix of clients. Right. Some of them are really older iPhone type devices, which were still getting consistent coverage across the track. Anything else you would add to that, Bruce? Yeah,
definitely a mix, and I would say that definitely the answer is it is optimized, or it benefits older and newer clients. So you don't have to have 11AX clients to benefit from it. Now, obviously, there are things such as OFMDA, some of the encoding rates that are only available if you are an 11AX client. But the fact that the antenna is doing what it's doing, that impacts any kind of client. And when we did a lot of tests with our Wi-Fi 6 solutions, we did some specific tests just like that. We take the existing 11AC clients and run them up against current products and then 11AX, and just based on the efficiency of the chipsets and technology continues to move forward, we were able to get better performance with a Wi-Fi 6 AP connecting to a older 11AC client than we were from an 11AC AP connecting to that same 11AC client, right? So just switching out the AP boosted the performance of the older legacy network, running the same clients. If that makes sense. I have a chart that actually not in this presentation, but that shows exactly that. So yeah, absolutely, there's a benefit from Wi-Fi 6, and then I would say with this product specifically with this antenna design, then that translates to really any Wi-Fi client, because in general Wi-Fi is backward compatible between the older and the newer technologies. So while we're now in the 6th generation of Wi-Fi, this product can connect all of the older generations, at least back to 11B, 11A, right, and everything moving forward. So the backward compatibility is something that is maintained and has been maintained for all those 20 years of Wi-Fi enhancement. So yeah, definitely the answer is yes, you will see that benefit. All right, so we'll wrap it up there. I want to thank everyone for joining and pass it back over to